Welcome everyone to this session of the 2024 Culture of Data Conference. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lala Kaiser. I use she, her pronouns, and I'll be moderating this session today. We also have Patrick Fiore, he, him, who is managing our Zoom and is making sure all of the tech things are working perfectly. So everybody is muted now, but if you have a question during the Q&A, please feel free to unmute. And actually, I encourage you to unmute. And then you can also use the chat box if you have questions or need anything. Also, if you're comfortable doing so, please add your pronouns to your Zoom name by clicking the little 3 dots on your video square and selecting rename. We have one presentation during this session. The presentation will be approximately 25 minutes, and there will be about 10 minutes for Q&A afterwards. I'm really excited for this session because it's kind of along the lines of our keynote speaker today of engaging with communities. So today we'll be learning about the Cuenta Conmigo Co-op as our speakers discuss the principles of community engagement and how to listen in a meaningful way to the community. So now I will turn it over to Paulina Erices Ocampo and Mary Margaret Faust Bishop to present Listening to Community, Opening the Black Box of Community Work and the Story of the Cuenta Conmigo Co-op.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Lala, for that introduction. And thank you, everybody, for being here. We picked a very long name for our presentation because there's so much that we want to tell you about. We have been working with this project for several, like I would say, 6, 7 years now. And it's a beautiful story. We really hope you get to enjoy it. I'm gonna, oh, why it's not moving? There we go. You already have the objectives, but we're gonna be talking about community engagement to know when we're ready. What does it mean to be ready, right? And then describe how this listening component, I know we're telling you a story, but at the same time, it's a story of listening. So I'm going to go into this part. This is probably the typical picture of Colorado that you may like and appreciate. If you are talking to someone from another state or another country and you say Colorado, this is what they envision, right? For some of us who do this kind of work, this is also an image that pops in our brains. This is from the Child Opportunity Index. It shows in the lighter blue colors the areas in the Metro Denver area, and I'm using this as an example. You could find also the maps, the GIS maps for other locations, but the lighter blue colors are showing areas where children have a lot less opportunity. The darker colors show a lot of opportunity, right? And this is what we use sometimes as a tool to say, where is it that we need to be? Who is it that we need to engage? We work in these areas, and as you can imagine, these are also the areas where we have high levels of immigrant communities, high numbers of immigrant people, as well as some of the neighborhoods that were redlining areas in the Denver metro area. When we think about communities, when we think about our work in maternal child health, we tend to use a sociological perspective, which to me is very fascinating. We put this baby at the center, this family, this community, and then we talk about the systems. But the truth is that when we are there, immersed in those communities that we were talking about, it looks really more like this, right? It's a mix of colors and shapes and figures and all of that. And the beauty of this is that if you zoom in into any of these spaces, you start noticing patterns, you start noticing connections that kind of unravel those beautiful concentric circles into this beautifully complex system, connections, love, sometimes loneliness that we find in the different communities that we work with. And Cuenta Conmigo has a story of starting from complexity and embracing complexity. We started with breastfeeding, and we have grown into infant mental health, community navigation, also now infant and toddler security. And we started with something that looked like this, right? This idealistic, romanticized version of breastfeeding. This is a Picasso painting, and for being Picasso, this is pretty simple, right? Even he who was able to do all kinds of crazy takes on figures and people represented breastfeeding in a very magical way, right? Knowing that It's not like this. Indeed, we are embracing the complexity of these colors, of these patterns, to bring and say that actually women don't breastfeed. It's actually the cultures that breastfeed. So that's what we have been doing with Cuenta Conmigo, is embracing cultural components, embracing complex stories, and bringing to life a movement in our communities. Mary Margaret.
Yes. Thanks, Paulina. Listening to community, we're going to talk about both from an organizational standpoint, listening to community, and then what that impact of listening community has in that parallel process of those community listeners, excuse me, community leaders really listening to community. Next slide. All right, so many of you on this presentation are probably familiar with different models of community engagement. And we wanted to bring this one to your attention, and it's really what we're utilizing when explaining what this partnership and this evolution of Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative has been. So what you see here is from Facilitating Powers. And this framework supports the belief that the stronger our local communities are, the more capacity we can unleash to address our toughest challenges, and the more capable we are of surviving and thriving through economic, ecological, and social crises. And I think we've seen that certainly through COVID as being one of those examples. My hope is that local public health and other entities within the community continues to adopt and utilize this type of spectrum when assessing, and I'm going to use a big word, revolutionizing community engagement efforts to really advance community-driven solutions. Next slide. So as Paulina mentioned, that we have been on this journey, and I have been really fortunate and privileged to walk alongside Paulina and the work of Cuenta Conmigo for about 7 years now. And this started through Paulina and I envisioning like what would this look like to truly be community driven? When you talk about lactation, when you talk about support in the community, like, is that possible? What does that mean to build community capacity? I think I've seen a lot of words, and sometimes the jargon, it just gets watered down because I'm like, what does that look like? And it's been really cool to see it in action. So Cuenta Conmigo started in 2019 as a community project with Conectando, which is a community group with support from Jefferson County Public Health, Colorado Statewide Parent Coalition, and Jeffco Libraries. Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative emerged from the community's interest and desire to protect, promote, and support lactation and safe infant feeding due to the patterns and lack of support and information given to families whose primary language is not English. Since 2019, Jefferson County Public Health and Cuenta Conmigo have partnered in multiple projects, including navigation and food assistance during the pandemic, emergency preparedness, and education to child care providers. And I will go into a little bit more about this evolution that Cuenta Conmigo has become a cooperative in this next slide. So in 2023, supported by the Continuity of Care NACHO grant, Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative joined Edgewater Collective Workers Incubator and became a cooperative business, a model that really advocates for social responsibility, community development, and community capacity investment. Adopting a cooperative model is a testament to Cuenta Conmigo's values, allowing Cuenta Conmigo to offer direct support to families, capacity building opportunities to communities, membership and a dignified income to individual community providers, honoring their diversity and experiences. And I will say, going back to the community engagement model, I truly believe that this partnership with Cuenta Conmigo is showing the value and the power that when you share it and redistribute power, that powerful things can happen in your community. Next slide. All right. So how do you know you're ready for implementing meaningful community listening? I don't know that I have this figured out, so I'm going to take some notes from Cuenta Conmigo's playbook and hope that you do too as we walk you through this process. Next slide. So those of you on this call, again, you're probably familiar with the ADKAR model, and it takes you through stages of change management. And it really starts when you're wanting organizational change. It can only happen with individual change. So I think as being a part of an organization, I've seen this tried to be put in place with some success. However, I believe that Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative also has had to go through this process as a team in order to be in a position to truly listen to community members. Next slide. All right, so just last year in 2023, Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative sought to learn more about breastfeeding and lactation experiences within the Latino community who live in the Denver metro area. And in order to do this, they utilized photo voice to really capture the experiences of mothers as they experienced motherhood in their communities. It was a powerful way to connect with moms and really truly hear their experiences and also determine, hey, is what we're doing really what the community is needing? And are we responding in ways that are truly hearing what their needs are? So through this impact project, Cuenta Conmigo could better understand the experiences of individuals and the unique characteristics of their network of support. So some themes emerged from this impact project. Breastfeeding support in our language and in all places. So we heard that moms felt like the support had improved over time, but it still wasn't accessible and accessible from someone who could speak their language and really understand their culture. Another thing that emerged was that while family support is incredibly important, there were many families who really felt isolated, especially during the postpartum period, and also really wanted support from professionals who could guide them in making decisions because misinformation is so prevalent in the community. Another theme that emerged is Estamos solas, we are alone, and the power of companionship that is a strong testament to women feeling like I'm really alone. I really feel isolated. I miss having opportunities for circles of support and bonding with other moms who are going through this journey. And the last theme that emerged is my baby is growing, my family is growing. So this recognizes that these women, while they hold the identity of being a mom, they also hold many other identities within their community. And how do you hold both of those and support them as best you can, and recognizing I don't want to feel guilty if I need to hold this other identity or play this other role in the community. And so breastfeeding was a way for moms to still have that connection with their babies while also holding those many different roles. So all of that being said, like this is working as this slide shows, because Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative had been on the right track, continues to be on the right track in responding to what the community is needing. Next slide. And this just pictures are more than worth 1,000 words. I think I got that wrong, but it truly is. You can see that community is where it's at, and Cuenta Conmigo is doing the tremendous, impactful, powerful work in the community. With that, I will pass it over to Paulina.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, um, I guess one of the questions that we continue having in Cuenta Conmigo and in these partnerships is how do we sustain this? Like we launched something, like we were working as volunteers, kind of adjusting and kind of juggling things for the first years. We heard like that family friend, neighbor providers, childcare providers wanted more knowledge. We were invited to talk to professionals who were interested in learning more about Spanish-speaking families. And then we during the pandemic, we activated to support food distributions for families and school supplies distribution and delivering food boxes to families with children with disabilities. Just we needed to respond. We wanted to make sure that people who were receiving cans of formula were also receiving information about how to prepare them safely, right? Connecting with food banks, like it was just this whole and everything was happening, and we were there to move quickly, and we found ourselves asking like, what are we doing now? After the pandemic was over, we kind of lost ourselves in this response that was so important. And maybe when we met that time, we were like ready to say goodbye. And we said, well, but we have been here for like kind of hanging out for like 4 or 5 years. Don't you think it's worth to do this again and kind of organize and keep going? And that's when the opportunity with Edgewater Collective came to life, to become actually a business, to make it sustainable, to make it our mission to just think bigger, grow bigger. And we had an incredible partner with Jeff Public Health, Denver Public Health as well. And right now we partner with MDPH. We have nature support as well, and we continue getting funds to provide more services. I can now move this slide. So let's see. So the first thing that we heard from the survey we did, not the survey, the study we did, the photo voice study, was that people wanted more presence. We needed to be in community. People kept telling us, oh, I wish I had known. I gave birth 3 months ago. I wish I had known. I had known that about resources. Most of the people connect to resources after their kids start school. So we said we need to activate and mobilize to get to people even before they give birth. So we have right now 7 groups in community, and actually now it's more because we are now having a virtual group every week. We started last week. We're partnering with more and more organizations. We are looking for ways that reflect this community interest. We tend to think in public health about community's needs. Well, believe me, that doesn't really work. We go for what people want to see, want to hear, want to learn about, even if that's fun, celebrating, and that's super important. We need to bring more joy to our communities through our work. And we bring a wide spectrum of expertise and connections as community navigators, as lactation counselors, as community health workers. It's a whole mix of people with different skills that we're bringing together. We are doing a safe infant feeding, community lactation access training. This one we actually provided also in Kansas, and we're going back for a second year of a whole week, 55 hours of lactation and infant feeding counseling. We're providing certifications for childcare providers, and we have monthly study sessions. Now we're actually doing weekly. It just keeps growing. We want to make sure that we're culturally responsive. And culturally responsive also means culturally thinking about Latin American countries, also Vietnamese as a country, we have worked with some families, but also the experience of immigration is very unique because it sets up a different dynamic and a different understanding of values. There's an assimilation process that we're very sensitive to. We're all immigrants. We are raising children in a world that feels you're one feet or the other. It's that space of I belong here, but I also belong somewhere else, and I have a history that brings me with my strengths and also sometimes my challenges. So that's something that's very like important for us. We speak the language of our hearts, and in our trainings, we know that participants are telling us that they feel moved to implement what they have learned. So we're constantly being challenged by our own participants in trainings who are saying, hey, what's next? We did this 40 hours training in lactation. What's next? And we have now a 32-hour training in infant mental health, and they're asking what's next because they want to keep building with us. So takeaways for the session, and we can answer any questions, is that listening is a skill to develop. We are Latinas, we are immigrants, and we're still super acutely aware that we need to continue listening to what our community says. Right now, in the last 2 months, we received about 120 referrals of moms who just gave birth and then need support that just arrived. And we need to adjust to that context. We need to attune and we need to immerse ourselves in the realities of families. Listening is a commitment to action. We cannot just listen and do nothing. We can hold a lot of space for people and create a lot of individual opportunities, but we also need to step it up and start advocating, doing presentations like this, so we exist, and hopefully you will want to partner with us. We need to build more and more capacity, and capacity that's flexible and adaptable, and use the power we have to create and share resources across and then create more. So with that, here's our contact information. You can download this presentation. But with this slide, I'm going to leave it there for a little bit. I want to see if you have any questions. And both Mary Margaret and I are here for questions.
Well, thank you for that amazing presentation. As an immigrant and as a Latina, I admit that I teared up a couple times because it definitely hit home. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to come off of mute or chat box it and I will read it out loud. If not, I have like 5 million.
I just want to say thank you very much. I'm also Latina and I work with pregnant people in Denver. So I'm very intrigued to hear about the work that you do. I'm also a certified lactation educator. So I would love to make some connections and see what lessons we can learn from your program in the program that I work in.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what are some of your greatest needs? I'll start with that question.
Greatest needs. Wow, do you have sources of funding? Like right now, in the last 2 months, we have gotten so many referrals. We have had over 50 home visits. So our budget for the full year is being quickly depleted. We'll continue doing the work, but if there's any ideas for partnering to apply for funding, that will be wonderful. We need some more practice hours for our counselors. So if they could, for example, go and see how you do this work, that would be amazing. We have a whole new cohort that just finished training in February. So we want them to see how we do it in Cuenta Conmigo, but also go see how other organizations are doing this work. So if they can shadow other lactation people, absolutely. Also, we do mental health perspectives, and that's an infant mental health. So we really look at the development of the parent-child relationship. So as well, anybody who's working in those areas, we want more experience and more connections for our counselors to be able to provide better care. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Super. And as you see, we like studies. We are, for some reason, we just love going in and doing the work at the same time that we are very attuned to change and perspectives and learning more deeply. So we take our work very, very seriously. So if someone wants to work on this, and we'll be happy to join as community research assistants. Within, I think that I saw you unmuting. I wonder if you have a question there.
I did
Sorry,
not.
Lala, I'm facilitating myself here.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't need me. I was gonna say the same exact thing.
No. I wasn't gonna ask a question. I also teared up in your session. I just really, really loved it. And being in the maternal health space for Black birthers, it was so much resonance and just so much resonance there. And I just was really humbled by your presentation. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing it. And also, I am in the business of funding communities, doing amazing work. And so I would also love to keep in touch if that is definitely, yeah, I'm drafting an email to you now. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And honestly, I have personally learned so much from our Black sisters doing this work. We have been able to visit Mama Hakima Payne in Kansas City. We have been able to connect with Kimari Bag, Mama Bag as well. So yeah, lots of learning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, actually, Mama Bag was the one who told me in a ride to the airport, Paulina, stop doing this work for others. You have to do your own thing. And that actually shifted everything for us. I was like, yeah, we can do this. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question just while other people have a chance to think. So you mentioned what's next, like what's next for Cuenta Conmigo, and I was wondering if you have examples of how the community engagement portion has guided the Cuenta Conmigo goals.
Yes. Excellent question. I don't know if you are aware, UNICEF created or just presented their new nutrition guidelines for the whole world, I will say, recommendations on infant and toddler nutrition. We have been studying, it was so exciting last week. We attended this presentation, and we have been doing actually a little study also in Denver, in Jefferson County and Southwest Denver, about the barriers and facilitators for the adoption of nutrition guidelines for Latino children. We're learning a lot. We talk about food security. With Cuenta Conmigo, we're talking about nutrition security. That's not so much about the food itself, but also about how meals and relationships and connection is happening within a family and within what I will call like a foodscape, right? The whole environment of foods availability. So that's next, actually. It's the connection of mental health, nutrition security, and not just looking at breastfeeding from people think, oh, the first 2 years of life, but you actually introduce solids at 6 months. And what we have seen is moms introducing snacks like cookies and chips at 6 months because they're told you have to give your baby 2 snacks a day. Well, snacks translate as a botana in most of the documents translated to Spanish, which means kind of party foods. So they're giving party foods to 6-month-old babies because the translations in the materials are just so poorly done. So we want to make sure that those babies who are touching their first nutritious foods at 6 months are actually getting like fresh fruits and veggies and yumminess instead of getting used to kind of snacky, salty stuff. So yeah, we're putting together, or next is a perspective of mental health and nutrition for families in the community.
Amazing.
And I will say, like, Mary Margaret is here. So we started this when I work in the health department with Mary Margaret. And the health department has had a very unique way of working with us in JEFCO that really allowed us to, gosh, how do I say this? It's grow supported. It was a jump for us as community members embracing this work, but it was a jump with some backing. Like Mary Mary will make the introductions, and that role is so important because initially nobody believed that this group of 5 Latina women could do this work, right? And Myanmar will make the introductions, and suddenly we have big organizations making these referrals. We became validated in somehow. Myanmar, do you want to share a little bit about how it's been for you?
Yeah, well, I think when you said that no one, or that there was very little belief, I kept hearing from members of Cuenta Conmigo Cooperative, thank you for believing in us. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it starts with you. It starts with believing in yourself. And I had to take a step back though and say, you know what? I don't know what it's like to be in your position. I have to recognize that being in a system, I know the system, I'm integrated in the system. How do you create pathways for building social capital, connection, integrating into the community? And so it's helpful. Paulina reminds me sometimes, like in the day-to-day, it's like, like what's public health doing in this? And she's like, you have no idea. Like this helped us like seed an opportunity, and the consistency and the belief and the sustainability in allowing us to take this work forward and decentering yourself as an organization, but really centering the work and the community consistently. I mean, I don't know a playbook around this. I think I've just tried to myself listen, act, make mistakes, learn from them, and stay in it and be present when and where I'm asked to be. But all of the kudos and praise goes to, I believe, Cuenta Conmigo. And if we could say, hey, we helped in this small way to create this opportunity, so be it. That was our role.
Yeah, and I love it when you speak Spanish with us. That's my favorite.
Oh, well, I'm very humbled when I am speaking.
Yeah, but I think that change happened at the health. Like I saw it from the inside in the health department, because kind of halfway this journey, I moved to work as a director in a nonprofit in South December, right? So it was this shift moving out from public health, then elevating this work that it was continue being so relevant. So the change I saw within the health department perspectives, where also there's a parallel process that was happening within community perspectives. And I think that was a beautiful, it wasn't a coincidence. There's never a coincidence there. It was very like intentionally built step by step. It was building relationships, building trust step by step. And sometimes it was 3 steps forward and 5 back, and then we'll launch again. But I think it's iterative, it's step by step, it's building roles and connection in the everyday work that then we look back. And this is what happens to us all the time. We just submitted our taxes for the first time with Cuenta Conmigo. And we're like, oh, wow, we made a bunch of money last year, money that was an investment to our families. We were able to mobilize resources to get a salary, not a salary because it's not that much money, okay? But to get paid for doing this work, to get paid to train other people. So when I look at my colleagues in the team, where they stand up and they're teaching for a whole week, and it's just amazing. Like it's something that we never expected. We're getting certified as infant mental health specialists, and we continue growing and learning, and that's amazing. So yeah,
Can you describe
change is
your team
happening
a little
everywhere.
bit more? Like,
Yeah, we
what does
should
your
move
team
back
look
to.
like?
I wish they were here, but we are actually very spread out today in different places. So here you can see Susie is with the pink shirt, I sitting at the bottom, right? I don't know if you. Is my pointer showing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And this is Lucy. This is one of the first club trainings. This was a 40-hour training that we did at the milk bank in 2023. So it's been about a year. This is Lucy over here, our partner, Allison from the health department who works with Mary Margaret. And this is one of the, oh, Susie's here too. This is one of the trainings for safe infant, safe young and infant and young child feeding in emergencies. So we are training people to be ready to deploy in case of emergencies. I don't have a stare, but let's see. Oh, Cynthia is over here. Cynthia is also one of our lactation counselors. And Esther was probably, Esther is here. You cannot see her lovely smile. in this picture, but she is here as well. This was a celebration of La Semana de la Lactancia Latina last year. So we joined a collective of Latinas in lactation. It's a national organization that started in, I want to say 2012 at the United States Breastfeeding Committee meeting. So we meet with them and organized last year for the first time Latina Breastfeeding Week. We are part of USBC, so we're part of the United States Breastfeeding Committee. I was actually in the board, and we're also recognized by ABLC, which is the International Board of Lactation Examiners. So our trainings are actually provide the continuing education credits for anybody in the lactation world. So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, I'll stop asking questions. Does anybody else have any questions? I could be here all day. Feel free to come off mute or chat box.
Well, we have a website that you can visit anytime. You can also email us anytime, and we'll be happy to set up a meeting. We are doing a lot of work right now. If we will open probably another club session in the fall, and we'll be doing some Cuenta Conmigo. That's a 16-hour training as well in the next fall, next year. We're just starting to plan for our fall and winter next year, like, yeah, the whole 2024, 2025. I cannot believe time is going so fast. So just get in touch and we'll be happy to connect. Oh, Rebecca has a question, I guess.
Yeah, a quick question. You mentioned working in Jefferson County. Do you also support families outside of Jefferson County, and if so, where?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We support families the whole Denver metro area. We have virtual groups for anybody outside of the Denver metro area, or phone calls, or we can do virtual visits. Because of location, we are unable to do home visits outside of the Denver metro area, but if we can train people in other counties, we'll be happy to go. I mean, we're training people in Kansas, and they are already serving families in Kansas. Did I say Kansas? I meant Arkansas.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
You're welcome. No, de que sí, nos pueden, so we have a phone number that they can call. It's a warm line. We don't pick up, we're not there, but we respond within 48 hours, or they can send us a message through the website. That's actually quite fast because I get every email, every referral form that you submit in the website comes to my email immediately. And since I live right next to this thing, my whole life is in my phone, those get distributed to our counselors very quickly, and they are able to call within, I will say, the same day.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your very inspirational talk. I will definitely be emailing you later. And thank you to everyone for attending this session and for engaging in the Q&A. A few short announcements before everybody heads out. The slides will be provided on Shed. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Sked, I don't know. And then you will receive a conference evaluation over email after the conference is over. Please fill it out, even if you only attend a portion of the conference. It's super helpful. As a member of the planning committee, we take those seriously and we read all of your feedback. So we would appreciate any feedback that you have. And there is a raffle for everyone who completes it. So within the first 2 weeks, and you could be the winner of one of two $50 gift cards. And then we'll now have a 15-minute break in the conference, and the next concurrent session is at 2:30. There'll be 3 sessions to choose from, similar to right now, so you can check the full schedule to decide what you're going to next. And don't forget to stick around for the day 1 debrief session for some casual networking and fun trivia. All right, everyone, have a good day. Thank you, Paulina and Mary Margaret. Nice to meet you.